Hello, I'm Inias Glorieux. I'm a sociology professor at the Free University of Brussels. I'm also the president of the International Association for Time Use Research, IATUR. Today, I want to touch on some aspects of time use research, some powerful elements when studying inequality between men and women. First, let me briefly point to some specific advantages of time use data. One of the main is that all activities in time use research are recorded sequentially. This means that the order they happen give us information not only of the duration of activities, how much time one spends on it, but also when it is done, the timing, in which order, the sequence, how often people do something during a day or during a certain period, and also the context of activities such as secondary activities, the place of activities, the people with whom we do the activities, and so on and so on. Time use surveys record things that people actually do and not what they do in general. This means that people don't just answer in general, but which often leads to social desirable answers and is often subject to memory decay. People record themselves, their activities in a diary when it's done, or they reconstruct them the day before, minute by minute, with the help of an interviewer the next day. This rich data is unfortunately often underanalyzed. Studies often limit themselves to how much people spend on different activities. Even when studying inequality between women and men, it's often only about how much time men and women spend on care, household work, paid work, leisure time activities, and so on. Of course, this is important. We have to continue doing this and looking at evolutions in this and compare between different countries, but there is much more than that to analyze. There are other parameters of social time, like I said, timing, tempo, and sequences. Of course, duration is important, and I don't think I need to dwell on this here. Here you see an overview of the time spent per week by men and women in Belgium, and you clearly see what we find in all countries all over the world. Men do more paid work, women do more unpaid work as childcare, household work, and they have less leisure time. But there is much more than that, as I said. If we look, for instance, at pace or tempo, then we are talking about how often people do certain things in a day. And that can reveal certain things about the quality of time use. It can be an indicator of fragmentation. If we look, for instance, for example, at leisure time, it makes a big difference whether someone can watch a television series uninterrupted in the evening for 2 hours as compared to someone who tries to do the same but constantly is interrupted by children asking for attention because they can't sleep. Or one has to interrupt leisure time activities to do some household work, such as emptying the washing machine or hanging up the laundry. Or leisure time is contaminated by other activities such as ironing while watching television. If you compare these things between women and men, one often sees indeed that men can spend the leisure time uninterrupted, often outdoors with friends, having not having to think about things such as household work or children. As such, looking at how often certain things recur, one can get an indicator of fragmentation. The timing of activities refers to when one does certain things, and obviously that also makes a big difference. It makes a difference if you have to do household chores at 10 o'clock at night because you didn't get around it during the day. It makes it different if you also have a lot of care responsibilities in the weekend or household chores to do. So you can't actually go through the weekend carefree. So when one does certain things can be an indicator of the quality of time commitment. Another example I have here, the timing of paid work of female and male full-time professors in Belgium. And you can clearly see that the women, the blue line, interrupt their work in the afternoon earlier to go home, to take care of their children, to do some household work, to prepare the meal, while men stop working later in the afternoon. And women actually in the evening, much earlier than men, take up their paid work again and go to sleep earlier because often they have to get up earlier in the morning again to take care of the children or to prepare some household work. Finally, there's sequence, the order in which things are done. One can study this using a statistical technique, sequence analysis. It would, however, take us too far in this short space to go into depth in this statistical technique. But just to say that the sequence of events can reveal patterns of time use. For example, we have done this here, looking back at paid work. Based on sequence analysis, we are able to reveal certain patterns. And then we could clearly see, for instance, that certain work time patterns are typically male and others are typically female. A typical male pattern in Belgium, for instance, is working 4/5 of the time, not full time, and staying one day at home. Usually it's Wednesday. Why it's Wednesday? Because children don't have to go to school on Wednesday afternoon. Some mothers often take care of the children on Wednesday afternoons. Fathers seldom do this. So this working time pattern is rarely seen among men. So these kind of things and much more can be done with sequence analysis. To conclude, time use data are very rich. One can do a lot with them. They are also important because they much better capture behavior, actual behavior. But unfortunately, analysis are often underutilized. The richness of time use data is often underutilized in statistical analysis. My plea here is to take full advantage of the multidimensional nature of time use data and not just start looking at durations of activity, but also analyze timing, tempo, the sequence of activities, and what I haven't explained here, other context variables such as who one does things with, where one is at certain activities, why one does certain things. These are all context variables in the analysis that can be important in the analysis of differences between men and women and can reveal more detailed differences, inequalities, more subtle inequalities among men and women. Thank you for your attention.